Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Alisa from Navozyme. For those of you who do not know us, at Navozyme we develop digital solutions to facilitate complex maritime certification processes related to ship registry, bunkering, port clearance, seafarers training certifications, and marine pollution. And all of that is to simplify seafarers' lives and protect the environment. We are happy to be back with a new webinar on the Blue Sea series. Today's session will follow a conversation around the topic of marine conservation between Anjaney Borwankar, Navozyme's co-founder and chief executive, and our two guest speakers, Jessica Giannotti and Ian Myles. We have today a powerful combination. Jessica Giannotti is a marine science graduate and fashion entrepreneur. She is the founder of the sustainable fashion think tank, Crùbag, an ocean-focused textile design studio, materials innovation lab, and community where artists merge marine science and art to reveal the hidden ocean. Our other guest, Ian Myles, is an award-winning industrial designer and a trusted advisor for Navozyme since its founding days. He has a proven track record in commercially viable innovations across industries and deep international experience with the startups and Fortune 500 companies. Before welcoming our esteemed guest, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. We want you to participate in this webinar, so please submit your questions with the Q&A feature in your Zoom menu. Now, without further delay, I would like to welcome Anjaney Borwankar, Jessica Giannotti, and Ian Myles. The floor is yours, Anjaney.
Hello. Thank you, Elisenda. Hi, Jessica. Ian,
Hi.
are you there as well? You can unmute and start your video. I just want to introduce yourself and then I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Yeah, it just says I'm unable to start my video because the host has stopped it. So I think I need a permission. Okay.
Okay. Yes, great.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Excellent. So we see everyone here. So I'll just give a short welcome again to everyone. And for me, this is a special webinar because of the two guests. Ian is not new to this series, but Jessica, you are. And Jessica, you bring a powerful combination of science and fashion, and that too in the maritime industry, which is very uncommon. This is why I think it's very special. So we're going to learn about your story. And Ian, thanks to you, we got introduced to Jessica in the first place. And you're right now sitting in the US, in the heart of where, a lot of innovation happens, at least historically. There are other Silicon Valleys as well appearing. And we're not going to debate, which one is actually leading at the moment. I'm sitting in Manila in the Philippines, and I'm here after COVID for the first time. Philippines is very important in the maritime industry because a large number, a substantial percentage, almost more than a quarter of the international seafarers come from this country. And I'm happy to note and report that, from my perception, it's bouncing back in a very strong way. So the topic today is really marine conservation. And we're first going to hear Jessica's story. So Jessica is the co-founder, or rather the founder also of Crùbag, which is a fashion house, but it's not any ordinary fashion house. It actually uses special dyes made from seaweed, and she's going to tell us more about that. Okay, so we're going to have this conversation over the next 1 hour. So the first 10, 20 minutes, whatever time you need, Jessica, to show a little bit your work. I think that will set the stage for us to have a discussion. And Ian, I'll bring you in the conversation just after, and you can give your perspective about, innovation in maritime related to marine conservation. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Jessica just one line for the audience as well. So we've got an audience that is actually connected again from all over the world. And we also record this. So those who are not able to join because of the timing, in the various different time zones that we sit. It's breakfast time, not even breakfast time for Ian. It's past my supper time here. And Jessica, you're actually the chief guest, so we give you a more reasonable time zone this time. right? But our guests are actually, some of them I recognize because they are well-wishers, friends, and you know, from the maritime industry. And then there are a lot of new guests here. So for them, the format here is you can comment, you can ask your questions. I'll be the moderator, and I'll be looking at the chat and try to bring in, you know, your discussion items as well to this forum, right? So that's basically how it is. We'll be punctual. So we've got another 55 minutes to close, with also some closing remarks from Elisenda again. She'll appear at the end as well. And so Jessica, over to you now, okay? And I'm going to stay connected, but I'm going to switch off my video and my sound. Once you're done, again, I'm going to welcome you back and we'll have a discussion. Okay, so Jessica, over to you, and I'm listening in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you for the kind invitation and having me here. I'm very excited, and so I'm just going to talk about the work we do here at Crùbag in a very relaxed way, and then from the perspective of marine conservation, but how we are combining different industries and sectors to try to think outside the box. I'm just going to start my presentation. So we are here at lunchtime. So yes, we have all time zones in the talk today. So it's 1 o'clock here in Scotland. So let me share the screen. Okay. Can you see the presentation? Great. Fantastic. Just let me start the presentation mode. Okay. So Crùbag is the word comes from Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, and it means crab. So if you see the blue crab, and it doesn't let me. Okay, yes. So Crùbag was started in 2013 after I completed my studies in marine science at the Scottish Association for Marine Science. It started originally with the idea to use textiles as a medium to communicate science to new audiences. And over time, it has become also a lab, a think tank, and a place where we explore ideas, but it's always with a focus on fashion and textiles combined with marine science. So we are based here in the Stony area of Argyll in Scotland on the west coast. And we are based at SAMS, which is the Scottish Association for Marine Science, which is the oldest Scottish Marine Institute in the world. So there is a lot of heritage and knowledge here in the area. And why Crùbag? So the reason started, and this is probably connecting with the maritime community, that when I did my studies, I was confronted with this immensity and depth. We started to learn about the ocean as a system, rather than just focusing on charismatic species or the way we see the ocean as a way to go on holidays to the beach. Here, it was all about seeing the ocean as a system, about climate, about chemistry, about ocean currents. And I was lucky and privileged to have access to a series of images under the microscope, like you see here, phytoplankton. This beautiful image was taken by Callum White. And we did a lot of field trips on research vessels. Here we were collecting sediments and in Loch Etive, which is one of the most beautiful lochs of fjords in Scotland. Loch Etive is also a natural lab. It has low oxygen or lack of oxygen in the lower part of the water column, which is called anoxia. So it's a great place to study processes in biochemical cycling, and also to study extreme organisms that can adapt to different climates and conditions. So I was completely in awe, and I fell in love with this world of marine science. And I started my studies as a mature student. I had 2 different careers before. I worked with horses, with show jumping horses, and then I worked with a management consultancy company 7 years in Berlin. And then I went back to my childhood dream to study marine science. But when I did this course, I didn't understand that I was completely in awe. So I had to find a way to communicate that. So over the years, I started to realize that the desire was to share that knowledge, share that beauty, and find novel ways to do it. Here, for example, we have the Spillhouse Global Ocean Map projection with the overturning circulation, and it's just about seeing the planet from the ocean perspective. We live in planet ocean, and here the community in the maritime industry understands that. And I think it's about raising awareness, and I think that for conserving the ocean, we need to understand the ocean. We need to also fund science organizations. So Crùbag was started for that reason. Okay, so our work is about revealing the unseen beauty of the ocean, but always with the science story and the environmental story in the background. So we collaborate with marine scientists, we merge art, science with textiles, and we chose to do scarves at the beginning because scarves are something that you treasure. There's something that silk scarf or cashmere, you pass them down to generations. So it has like the potential to become a canvas, to become a storytelling piece where you wear it and you become an ocean ambassador, you share the story, and then it is about spreading the message, but also the beauty and the inspiration. So we are not about antagonizing or lecturing others. There are many environmental organizations out there doing great work with awareness. We are about talking about difficult environmental issues, sharing marine science education through inspiration, through positive emotions, through inviting everyone to join and become part of the movement. And the philosophy behind our work is that we envision a better and more connected world where we all people, where humans are not separated from nature, but part of the ecosystem. And this is why I think the ocean as one global ocean, can be the connection where we all come together, organizations, businesses, nations. We have to think about how can we reconnect with nature. So I think that apart from the practical side of the business, the creating textiles, there is also the overarching philosophy that science and marine science is a way for us to have that deeper connection with nature and understand our planet. And of course, then we have the textiles, and here we have the philosophy, but we also have to think about the materials that we use. And at Crùbag, we are a very small organization, so we are a micro business. We have dreams to grow and become a global brand and business, but we have to think about from the baseline, how can we work with the materials that we have? So we develop a material matrix and assessment, and it's just about identifying better ways of working with different fibers, finding certifications, finding opportunities for improvement, and also evolving from science, storytelling, and design to also developing materials. And well, we have here the opportunities where we have raised awareness at the moment. When we started Crùbag in 2013, we were considered a niche brand. We were told this is too niche and to focus on the ocean and marine science. But now you see everyone is talking about the ocean, everyone is talking about climate change, everyone is talking about marine conservation, plastic pollution. So the timing is perfect to find creative ways to combine education with inspiration, with design, with technological innovation, to bring forward a shift, to bring forward a systemic change where trade also can be part of it. I think that positive trade and the maritime industry is so important for the global trade and moving towards a decarbonization of the maritime industry, also fashion industry. We have to decarbonize the fashion industry. And I think there are initiatives like the Green Corridors or Crùbag, SAMS, the Marine Institute, doing important work. If we all come together and focus on our niches to create that positive change, I think that can be, it can become like a wave, inspiring others and becomes a baseline, an example for everyone else. This is why it's important to share, to give talks and be open to the community. We have the opportunity. There is also a lack of funding for science organizations. So Crùbag's primary mission is to promote the work of marine science, but also build a business model and grow in the future and grow over time to bring back money to science, because the science organizations like SAMS are the ones that are creating the base knowledge that NGOs, politicians, policymakers, and businesses use to develop the policies and create the work. You look at amazing organizations cleaning the oceans, cleaning plastics. You have organizations that are promoting marine conservation, but they all need the core science, the base knowledge. And organizations like SAMS are focused on creating that knowledge and sharing it with society. This is why we need to fund science organizations to preserve the ocean. We need to fund science. And this is why I like to here mention our main impact partner, the Scottish Association for Marine Science. SAMS is a global charity and a leading science organization that is doing incredible work. Here's also the QR code. They have a fundraising page. They're doing incredible work in all kinds of sciences and applied as well as long-term science. They're doing work in climate science, Arctic science, polar science, research on algal biotechnology, ecology, climate change. We have here world-class scientists that are studying the shift in habitats due to climate change, or are studying or developing the blue economy and the seaweed industry here in Scotland, in the world. They're educating. There is the Ocean Explorer Center. And so even if we are here in a small country, I think Scotland can be, there is a lot of power and knowledge here, and Scotland can be an ambassador to the world. It can be an ambassador of innovation, an ambassador for science. And I think that organizations like SAMS that have been around for 150 years are leading the world of marine science and creating science that is having an impact on the whole planet. And Crùbag is about communicating that, and it's about sharing that beauty and reaching new people and bringing the science and the beauty of the ocean as part of your identity. Because you wear your clothes, it becomes part of who you are. So here are some images of what SAMS does in terms of oceanography, microscopy, work with algae and research on pathogens. They are growing. They started a new seaweed nursery and the Seaweed Academy, and there is also world-class Arctic science here as well. And back to our products. So it is important to tell the story, but also communicate to our clients why we are creating more products. There are plenty of products already in the world, plenty of brands. But I think that we have that added value that we pair our products with ocean literacy, that we have a new aesthetic. So what we're trying to create is not replicate. There are incredible designers, talented artists out there doing illustrations, doing already work, doing scarf with florals and other things. For us, it's about revealing the unseen, the hidden ocean, those aspects of the ocean that are not seen by many, and that are out of reach, like you could, phytoplankton, or like this scarf here, with the eye and the purpley organism. This is a new discovery, a new organism that lives on the deep sea mounts, and it hasn't been described by science yet. So you can see it mimics coral, it lives on hard corals in the deep sea, and it mimics the coral polyps. So it is about creating that overview effect as well, that astronauts have when they are in space. How can we feel that love, feel that awe, and feel that connection? And I think we need to have access to the ocean. We need to understand it and have access to the beauty. So this is some of the designs that we create. They are all based on themes and stories, whether that's the climate change collection or collections around algae and pathogens or blooms, or the deep sea mountains. We always work with marine scientists and also write the stories and tell the stories behind the collections. We also have, of course, we work with other organizations. So we try to work with different segments in society. We work with children in schools through our school projects. We have a direct-to-consumer brand to reach those messages, but also we work with science organizations, businesses, and all kinds of organizations, and create bespoke solutions to communicate their values, their connection to the environment. And it is about creating that bigger community where everyone can be part of. And this is my clue here to stop sharing for a moment. I hope I'm okay with time.
Yes, Jessica, you're doing really well. So do you want to show us your studio as well?
Yes, yes. So this is the studio.
Yes.
So, well, I
Makes
have
it
to
more
say,
new.
so we just moved back because we had some renovation work going. So we just moved back, and we have to decorate it. So still undecorated. But these are the scarves. So this is the scarves from the Flora and Show collection. They are all inspired by algae, and we use microscopy images to reveal the beauty. And these are from the climate change collection. I'll bring this and show you some at the table. These are more graphic, more cultural. We use text and we use graphics into this collection. And this is the seamount collection, where we share images from organisms living on top of seamounts. And this is a hidden world. No one really have access to this apart from scientists and articles. And the scientist here, Professor Bhavani Narayasawamy, she was very kind to work with me, and we brought her science. So we always work with a principal investigator or a scientist partner to bring their science to the world, to bring their science to new audiences. So we have here, for example, this is from the first collection, the Gachon collection. And you can see here the scarf. So this is showing, this is actually, so it looks like a floral, but it shows a warfare between algae and pathogens, which is part of nature, part of life, which is the cycle that regulates ecosystems. And this also is this organism called Uricasmus anomyces, which is also important for studying human health, immune systems. The genome, they have been studying the genome of this organism, so it become a model organism for studying other problems like potato blight and human diseases. So marine science goes beyond the ocean. It goes into our climate, it goes into our health, it goes into what we eat. We have this other cards, for example.
Sorry to interrupt. What you showed, the scarf, now there are a lot of people like me, probably, who are not very familiar with all these microorganisms that you're showing. So can you repeat the name of that organism?
Yes, apologies.
It's beautiful, but I need to know the name.
Yes, and I'll show we can share the link as well after with the science stories. So this is an algae called, for brown seaweed called Ectocarpus, and it's interacting with a pathogen, which you see it here in red. I can show you, yes.
So it's an algae interacting with the pathogen. Okay, for those, I think now I understand better. And there's a red and a green element here. Yeah.
So this is the pathogen here. This is a bigger version. And this is the algae. But what I see is beauty. So some people see a pathogen, but what I see is the cycle of nature, life and death, the cycle of how ecosystems regulate and how there is balance in the ocean. And if you see,
and again, for those not familiar with what a pathogen is, could you explain that as well for the non-scientist group?
Well, a pathogen is an organism that causes. It could be a virus. It could be an omicid, a fungal virus. It causes disease. It causes it damages the organism. So there has to be a defense system to. So when we become ill, so this pathogen, for example, it tries to inoculate the cells of the algae and then takes over. So there is like a dance between the two, and then the algae. There is a lot of research because the algae kind of isolate some of the cells and lets the pathogen take over a limited area. So it's fascinating. And the beauty is also about you see this little, like, they look like little diamonds, but it's called heart of diamonds. These are the spores that are released. So there is so much beauty in the microscopic world of the ocean, so the tiny part.
Yeah. No, so you're doing a fantastic job of bringing this information, like you said, the hidden world, to the average person like me. And so you also mentioned, did I get that right, that with each of your products, like the scarf, you have a small booklet which kind of explains the story. Is that right?
Yes. So we have, so this, for example, is from the climate change collection, and it shows a case stories, science case stories of climate change from the ocean perspective. And this is also a graphic illustrated book to show the science stories, starting with the concept of the global ocean, and then moving, and every theme is paired with their design, and then it moves towards the shifting habitat caused by climate change. So we have a series of themes, and I'm happy to share the link. We have a digital version as well with everyone. But here, for example, a fascinating story. I collaborated with SAMS and the University of Edinburgh, Newcastle University, and British Antarctic Survey for this project. And we have here, for example, this project, which is the zooplankton plastic pump. And we have this design, which is called blue carbon. And what you see here is zooplankton and microplastic particles. And the story here is how plastic pollution affects the capacity of zooplankton to take and sequester carbon into the deep sea. And these links are not well understood. So there is a lot of research that we are, so there is an amplifying effect of microplastic pollution, making it harder for zooplankton to, because they ingest microplastics, and the whole process of them ingesting and then going into the deep sea and then falling down, it's affected. So we have then a reduced capacity for carbon sequestration caused by climate change, by plastic pollution. And I think this is important to share. I think these are stories that, and how do you tell these difficult stories? I think you have to use beauty, you have to use abstract art, you have to use storytelling to make, instead of overwhelming others, you empowering people with knowledge, you empowering people with beauty, you are inspiring. So it's about, I feel inspired, now I know this, what can I do, how can I tell this story? And I think that that's the goal here, to inspire, to empower, to share, and to reveal what is not available to others. And we also try to be as sustainable as possible. So we use the offcuts to make notebooks. We are making these new snoots as well, like box, just for outerwear. And we are also designing for clients for their purposes. So there is a lot of work that we can do. Or here, for example, this is a cashmere scarf that reveals the beauty of the deep sea. So this is a way, this is like a tangible reminder. This is a way to show what we have, how amazing our home is, how amazing our planet is, and also work together. And we are also developing a new range of knitted blankets, so using different techniques. So it's all about the textures, the materials, and just go back to the presentation. I'm almost done.
No, that was very, very interesting. Yes, please finish your presentation and then we can begin the discussion.
Okay.
It's getting super exciting.
Okay. Thank you. So, okay, so if we go here, so this is the process, it's about knowledge sharing. So I explained this already. It's about knowledge sharing, creation, collaboration, and innovation. And to do that, we collaborate, we talk to scientists, we learn about the stories, then we create the designs that convey the story, and then find ways to share that with others through textile design, through products, but also through the booklets, through these cards. So we pair things with the science, but we need to improve. So we are looking into building a more comprehensive ocean literacy platform that is available to all, so people can buy the products, but you don't have to buy the products to get the science story. You come to the website and learn about it. So we are working on that. We also started the Ocean Futures Lab to bring innovation into the mix and develop new materials. This is focusing on bringing fashion, textiles with marine science and sustainable aquaculture together. This is about creating also positive change in our industry. So before I was talking about as a brand, direct-to-consumer brand, or as a business-to-business offering bespoke solutions. Here, it's more about interacting with the industry at large and sharing the knowledge that we have with others. And for that, so one of our first innovation projects is sea dye, which is a natural dye that so we're working with SAMS here as well in partnership, and we are extracting pigments from a local seaweed that grows here. It grows all in the North Atlantic, so it's not an invasive species. It's called Palmaria palmata, also known as dolls. And we found a way to extract pigments without using any solvents, without using any chemicals, and developing a natural dye alternative. We're very excited as we just proved the concept and replicating making the dye. And we are about to develop our plan to scale up. And we started already engaging with potential partners for developing the non-toxic fixation method. Here is how we harvest seaweed. And it's all about, so this is how the seaweed looks. And we work very careful because at the moment for small quantities, it's fine to harvest, and there are limits that are defined, and we leave the frost, so we don't take everything on one area. We just take some pieces and then move along the coast to make sure that the algae can regrow. And then, but when we scale up, how do we see sustainability? So we see sustainability in 3 stages, and this also involves different innovation steps, which is about sourcing biomass, So we need to scale up. So we need to see the algae as a crop rather than take it from the marine environment. So we need to grow algae. We started already our cultivation trials. So we need to grow the seaweed, farm the seaweed, ideally land-based tanks, and then scale up by having available biomass in a sustainable way. Then also refine the extraction methods, make it more efficient, and then work with our partners to develop non-toxic fixation methods in different fibers. We already have three partners or potential partners for different types of fibers, for cellulose-based, for wool, and for regenerated nylon. And of course, and this is a quick, this is about what can we do with the excess biomass. When we extract the pigments, we have some excess biomass. What can we do with that? So we are trying to think ahead of time and see, can we use the biomass, so that discarded biomass for other projects? And we are trying to see, can we do sequence? Can we do embellishment products? Can we extract valuable compounds, or even use the biomass as a biofuel to bring energy back to our lab? So this is so it's about being smart, because people talking about biomaterials and going back to nature, but we did that before. And synthetics were there also to avoid. If you look at Harris Tweed here in Scotland, they have to stop using natural dyes because some of the plants in the Western Islands were going extinct. So it's about, so synthetic dyes play a role, but now we have to go back. We have to decarbonize our economy. We have to stop relying on petrol-based products. So if we are going back to nature, how can we do it better? How can we not overexploit, and how can we take into account the carrying capacity of the ecosystems? So we need to use marine science for that. We need to work with scientists, and we need to understand the ecosystems we work with and develop smart models, smart business models as well, not just technologies to, and it takes a village. So we work with many scientists here, some of the scientists and people that we work with, and mentors like Ian and many other people. So there are so many people. We are so grateful. Here is Dr. Anushka Miller, the head of comms at SAM, Professor Michelle Stanley, who's our partner in CRISE, and doctor at SAMS, but of professors at the Natural History Museum, Claire Gachon, who was our first partner. She believed in us when we started, and it was just an idea. Here are the details of our, so you can see that in the recording. You can get in touch, and we are launching the new website and new products, and we're launching the tartan that we developed for SAM this Thursday. So it's all about sharing the joy, the beauty, but also communicating important science and promote marine conservation through knowledge and through design. Can you stop sharing?
Yeah, thanks so much.
I think maybe Jessica. I talked a bit too long.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's like, I think, you know, you have enough content for a lot of sessions here. And it's a shame that, you know, time is always limited. But you've done a nice job of giving us a flavor of the different work. And, you know, I'm not confused. It's just like, that's how life is. Are you a scientist? Are you an artist? Are you, you know, you've got a design studio inside a research center. You are definitely not sounding Scottish, but I know your background, and you're from Caracas, Venezuela, you know, so it's what life is, right? It's a mix of so many flavors. And kind of, I'm a little ashamed because I've got this very fashionable white kind of dress, you know, in front of. So I'm going to add a bit of color to my life from the next year. That's going to be my New Year resolution. We're going to use your help. Okay, Jessica. So I'm going to bring in now Ian also, okay? And we're going to have a conversation in the next 20 minutes, maybe take a few questions from the audience or comments. So Ian, firstly, let me also introduce you properly. Okay, so I think we met many years ago in Singapore, and now we are physically in also different locations. But the common mission still continues, right? And you are eclectic as well. So you are a designer, but I think you showed me a very sophisticated way of communications before, you know, Li-Fi. I still remember that, a prototype in your lab. And you're of course an expert on AI identity. You ran the first conference actually in Singapore many years ago. And when that thing, nobody understood what was going on actually with that. And more importantly, today you introduced us to Jessica. So, like Jessica is helping us uncover hidden things in the ocean. I think Navozyme is playing a tiny part by uncovering people like Jessica in front of this audience, right? So we feel grateful for that. So Ian, from your side of the world, how are you seeing the innovation going on and the role of technology in marine conservation? So maybe you can give a couple of minutes of your roundup, how you see that, and then we bring it to a conversation between the three of us. So you're on mute right now. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Jessica's still to do me a t-shirt that says you're on mute, because it's the most common phrase. It's the most common phrase of the Zoom age, right? Well, first of all, thank you for hosting. I got asked to help Jessica navigate the complex world of design. And I have ADHD. I'm a neurally divergent person, which is great for creativity. It's hard for focus, but if you can channel the crazy ideas, and sometimes you can find some magical new way forward and think there's something here, let's build on it. Well, Jessica's definitely one of these people. I'm hanging out in Silicon Valley, which is home for me, and people ask me what I'm doing now, and I said, I'm working with this lady. She started a design studio inside of a science research facility, and everybody says, what? And it's like the most radical of ideas, like, how can you do this? Even my 24-year-old daughter, she's like, wow, that's cool. It's just an unheard of concept. And we live in an age of complicated problems. And we live in an age where we need new solutions. And thinking of yesterday is not going to solve the problems we have ahead of us. So we need this type of, energetic, creative new thinking of how do we work through some of society's issues. And I think focusing on a problematic space like fashion is a really, really important path, because it's something that people are passionate about, care about, spend a lot of money about, but it's got quite a ruthless history when you look at manufacturing, the cost to society, the cost to ecology, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also this great way of combining really fascinating storytelling, like phytoplankton on a scarf. It's like even the wackiest, craziest designers, I don't think would go to those kind of outer limits. But 2 years back, I've been living in Asia, as you know, for like 8+ years, and I go back to California, so I'm feeling my way around again. There's two consistent themes I'm finding in people's lives here: wilderness and love of the outdoors, planet Earth and nature, and technology, because that's where we're going to have an economy and make money. So there's these two huge ballasts in people's lives, and they're spending more time outdoors here because it's just good for your mental health to reconnect with nature, and remember who we are and where we came from, and then find new ways to tackle and solve some of the problems that we've got ahead of us. Like COP27 is just wrapped. It's this annual criticism of not enough progress. But when you come across somebody as energetic as Jessica, who's got so many great ideas, you think, okay, let's just, capture some of these shooting stars, wrap some energy, fund, resources, talent around it, and turn it into something. As a think tank, it's a great place. I love the Sea Dyes initiative particularly because I can see that having a really profound effect on the fashion industry, but that's one of many. So it's just fun hanging out with Jessica. I'm trying to put some shape and direction and connectivity. My kitchen is covered in samples right now. We've got a very short-term commercial objective is to get her materials into 4 aquariums: Singapore, Hong Kong, Barcelona, and my own neighborhood aquarium. It's Monterey Bay Aquaria, which is a big science research facility as well. And so we're trying to commercialize so that there is nutrient and money into helping her grow that think tank and more initiatives. So that's why I'm involved. So.
Yeah, thanks again, Ian, for your perspective. Again, I won't be apologetic about this, but I do want to also, promote Jessica's work. So we also timed this webinar because it's just before the gifting season, right? We all thinking of different gifts, and Jessica's gifts are just wonderful, right? and unique as well. And again, this audience is really from all over the world. So later, of course, we'll share your details, Jessica, right? And thanks again for sharing the work you're doing. So let me shift a little bit this conversation. And what you're doing is not easy at all, because basically you're taking a very traditional, very old industry as well, the maritime industry, even the research scientists, etc., and then bringing this color into it, literally, right, with your fashion. And you're both a scientist and a fashion designer, right? So how did you actually go about doing this? How did you bring these different worlds together? Any thoughts on that? Any suggestions? Because in Navozyme, it's quite different. We deal with hardcore deep tech like blockchain and AI. But really, my observation is the technology is way ahead of the human problems. And in blockchain specifically, you're dealing with consortium, you're dealing with different stakeholders, different perspectives here, and they all have to come together, and only then a lot of value is generated, right? So in a way, I see an analogy here. I see similarities. You've got two different industries, two different groups coming together. So how do you do that, and how important have you seen that in your work?
Well, I think that's the key aspect of my work and what makes it unique and different. On my side, it's all about building relationships, networking, and talking to scientists, talking to everyone, testing ideas. But I think the most important factor will be listening. I have these conversations with the scientists, and I listen to their work. I don't come with my ideas to them. I'm like a white canvas. I just go and talk to them, and then ask them what they're doing, what work they're doing. Just to give an example, the climate change collection, it all started. I went to visit Professor Stuart Cunningham. He's an oceanographer here at SAM, and he invited me to have tea at his house, and we were talking about COP26 that was coming up at the time. And then he said to me, Jessica, the climate problem is an ocean problem. And then I said, oh, yes, absolutely. Why don't we do a collection about it? So it just, the idea comes from listening to the scientists and understanding their work. With Claire was the same. She had this project, and I was helping her as a student. And then I realized that there was a deeper story here with under the microscope going on. Also, that it takes a lot of diplomacy. Scientists are very busy people. They work under a lot of pressure. There is a little funding to science at the moment, so they have to really focus hard on getting grants. And so for them, it can be hard to take the time off to work with me. So I have to develop systems where I have to be independent, where I get the science, and because I study marine science, that gives me the background to read papers, and I can understand what they're talking about. So it's easier for me as I'm part of that network. And I had to learn about textiles. So it's like I think Crùbag works because I'm an outsider on both worlds. I'm an outsider in the marine science world, and I'm an outsider also in the fashion world. And then I'm not looking at things the way people learn in fashion school, or they learned it. I just came from a different corner altogether and reinvented the wheel. I don't know if it's a better wheel or not, but I just reinvented my marine science and fashion wheel. And it's all about relationships and being kind, have empathy, but also being energetic. You have to be always on. You have to be always one step ahead. You have to always innovate. You can't sleep on your laurels, so you have to always think ahead. And you finish something, and you have to think, okay, how can we improve? How can we bring a better story? How can we expand the project? And it's all about people. So we have to collaborate with so many different people, and every project is a new team. So having that capacity, I think, is about soft leadership. It's about inspiring, having the leadership without being too bossy, but it's about being clear about the goals and what to expect, and giving clear guidance to our partners as to how to contribute, and motivating them as well. Because for them, it's not just about communicating their science to new audiences, which is the obvious, but many have said to me that they had another effect in their lives and work. It has improved their well-being. It has improved when they come at work, they feel happier, they feel more motivated. I think Crùbag has also had a positive impact on some culture at large. It has ignited that creativity, that love for creativity, for design. So they're using a lot of, so some communications is also using new projects and combining science and art on different things at the moment. So it has created a feedback loop that is going both ways. I get the science and I get to work with the scientists, but they also get other things. And what I was surprised to hear was also that some of the scientists said to me, Jessica, because of your collection or because of the work we did together, my colleagues, my peers, they also know more about my work. So when I'm at conferences, they ask me questions, and it's an icebreaker. Also, when you have different stakeholders, if you are talking about marine conservation and you have industry, fisheries, renewables, and scientists coming together to one place, you have textiles that show the beauty of the ocean. It just breaks the ice, it breaks the tension.
Yeah, no, Jessica, you've touched upon so many interesting points here. One of the takeaways that for me is, of course, listen first, right? Because it's out there. And if you want to collaborate, it's about listening, with empathy and actively. But it's also the storytelling aspect here, right? That I think is key.
Yes.
That people connect better with stories, because stories usually have emotions, they have color, right? So just pure scientific, imagine you had written a scientific article about how phytoplankton get affected with microplastics. And yes, 10 people will read it and appreciate it, and another 10 would talk about it. But now you have the scarf, right? And it's just a beautiful piece. And somebody out of curiosity will say, wow, that's beautiful. And you have an opportunity now to raise awareness about that, right? And then the scientists can, of course, read about that as well if they're interested. But I think the power of storytelling through art is very important, right? So here I'm seeing marine conservation, in a subtle way, but in a very powerful way. In fact, on this series, this, Blue Ocean series that we call, which is focused on decarbonization, we've had also very technical conversations, right? About how the maritime industry is looking at, different aspects of ships, fuels, etc. Right? So we had that discussion. And of course, that is very important and goes straight to the source. But I think here we are talking of something deeper. It's the subtle nature of change, which enables then other actions to happen, right? So that's what I'm enjoying a lot in this conversation. So I'm going to give Ian an opportunity also, and Ian, feel free to also, ask or comment as you please. You know Jessica very well. I have one question which is compelling me, and then I'm going to look, towards the audience. We've got about just under 15 minutes. Time just flies here. Okay. So one of the things is this thing on dyes, seaweeds. You're using seaweed, a particular type of seaweed, to extract color, dye, and then also the process of dyeing. Again, you're making sure there's no waste, but there's so you got that right in front. But how did that idea generate? Can you tell us? Because we are also interested in innovation here, and how did that originate in the first place?
Through conversations. Probably Ian is also, because he is also a machine for ideas. In this case, we wanted to work on sequence first, and I was talking to my science partners, but because we have to first, when you have, you work with seaweed, you have the biorefinery process, where you have to first determine what is the most valuable product, and then the cascading effect you have, that you have the different byproducts that you can use. And it wasn't the right timing. We tried to work on the seaweed sequence for last year, and then the opportunity came to explore the dyes first. And then we realized, okay, if we focus on the dyes, that's the most valuable product. That's what can have the biggest impact in the fashion industry. And then any discarded or excess biomass, we can look into developing compostable bioplastics or something similar. And what you were saying before is about, that what you were mentioning. I think we cannot disconnect emotional from the logical, and I think this is why Crùbag, makes you feel good, or makes other people, myself, motivated, because you have the science knowledge which triggers the cognitive reaction, but then you have the textiles that triggers an emotional response. And I think the combination of emotional response with cognitive, like you just see your heart, your prefrontal cortex, so you're creating a holistic effect in your body. And it would be interesting to talk to a physician to understand the physiology of it, to see what areas of the brain get activated with the different side with the storytelling, with the science, with the textiles and the colors and design. And probably, Ian, you know more about this than I do. So if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I think I mentioned I have ADHD, so I love conversations that jump around all over the place. And but at some point you've got to, like, okay, that was great. We've now got to do one thing, and we've got to change our focus from divergent to convergent, and we now need to go and get that thing built and executed. But I love that Jessica's an outsider. And I think anyone who's in any type of job, any type of work, you're going to come up against places and times when you're stuck. You're like, this is hard, or this isn't working, or we need to make change. And this Blue Ocean initiative, interdisciplinary problems require interdisciplinary thinking. And the solution may not exist within the framework of what you know. So you need to, hence the phrase outside of the box, but you sometimes need to, let's try and look at our problem through a different lens. Let's try and look at our problem from a different point of view and see if we can push past. Now, that foundational knowledge, I mean, I look to science. I'm a believer that it's that rigor of intense scrutiny towards understanding is just going to give us a better understanding of what actually happens, like what's actually going on with phytoplankton, and what can be done about microplastics. I mean, that's a really intractable, impossible, seemingly problem. But I think enough creativity, intensity. And one thing I'll tell you about innovation, which I've dedicated my life to, is it never comes from a formal setting. Innovation does not happen in a formal setting. Innovation comes when there's a free exchange of ideas. People can speak their mind, they can get energetic, they can have passion, they can have humor, they can have laughter, we can be our most human. And that's where innovation comes from, where somebody says, wait, that's not as crazy as it sounds. Let's just pause on this idea for a minute. Let's unpack it a little bit. You think about all the great inventions. At some point, somebody said, say that again. And that's when that relationship, the symbiotic relationship that you were giving us an example of earlier, is the dynamic between people. It's like, wait a minute, this idea you've had, I can add my idea. And then kind of like cells multiplying, it's like, there's something here. And that's what is just required for innovation. That's what's required for multidisciplinary, really complicated problems. And when I look at COP27, and this is, I teach design and AI now, because I think if you've got any problem, put a creative person on it, and they'll come up with radical fringe, silly ideas. But if you're trying to unpack a problem, you've literally got to, open up that universe and look at it from as many different angles as possible, and then find new paths out. That's my 10 cents.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This is also perhaps why innovation in the traditional maritime industry is really difficult, because on ships, and I've been spent a considerable amount of time on board ships. It's not about creativity. It is not about exploration. It is really about following specific guidelines and instructions, and not questioning authority, for good reason, of course.
For good reason.
Absolutely. But when you transport that kind of framework into the innovation side of things, then it starts getting really difficult, right? So
depends
it's
where you do it.
important to bring out that that aspect here, right?
It depends where you do it. I've been using a quote for about 10 years now. It's in every one of my slide decks, and it's an American social biologist called E.O. Wilson. And he says the problem with humanity is we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And whenever I'm stuck, I'm like, am I dealing with a Paleolithic human who's got self-centered motivation? Is this the person that's stopping me? Or am I dealing with a medieval institution? Or do I just fundamentally not understand this godlike technology and I can't get my head into this new space? So to me, it's a funny thing in isolation, but combined, it's like, okay, you just got to know where you are and what you're dealing with. Change is disruptive. Change does threaten an existing way, but it can be managed. I'm super impressed. You said to me in Singapore that compared to the aviation industry or the land vehicle industry, you thought maritime was at least funded for innovation and progress. And I think you're right to an extent. But what I've observed in 3 or 4 years, and I've been sending you guys what I see on LinkedIn, I'm amazed at how much innovation is actually going on. I mean, some of the electric autonomous vehicles going on in the Baltic, the Scandinavians are really, really pushing that envelope. So I think it's in pockets, but I agree with you. The rules-based order and methodology, usually for reasons of safety. It's like, this is known, this is proven. A lot of people have died at sea. We've got really, really tested methodologies for minimizing that. That is absolutely necessary from a kind of rigor. But there's a time and a place for where to be creative, and there's a time and a place where it shouldn't exist. So I think it's in I think it's in different places in different pockets. So
yeah, fantastic. Well said. I really love the way you've explained the complexity that's there when you do innovation, and also not to get affected, right? You continue chugging along. Here, I'm just conscious of the time. And so last call to the audience in case there are any comments or questions here. It's been fascinating. We've got just a couple of minutes left. So I want to give Jessica and you, Ian, as well, to kind of give your final comments, your messages that you may have for the audience. I'll start with Ian first, and then hand it over to Jessica, and then I'll have the last word unless a question pops in, and then we can probably take that question. Okay, so please, Ian, what would you like to leave the audience with?
I think we're gathered around marine conservation. It's vital to our lives and our well-being, either today immediately as a paycheck in our economy, but also long-term for the health of the planet. So just taking it seriously and knowing that there's amazing people like Jessica, organizations like Crùbag and SAM's working on it. Just I think a general awareness, and just know that change is possible and there's good people working on it. I think that's all I'd like to say.
Thanks, Ian. Jessica, your message for this audience? And remember, it goes on record, so it will be played.
That's right.
Okay, yes. Be careful with what I say. Like Ian was saying, I completely agree with him, and I would like to add that I would like to see the maritime community, the ocean community, from research, from industry, from shipping. I think we could come all together and interact more. I think there is a lot, like I'm doing with the creative industries and marine science. I think there is a lot of knowledge to be transferred between all these different sectors that we all share the same interest, love, and also necessity to work with the ocean. And I think that as a one ocean that is all interconnected, it could be a great metaphor for all different industries and sectors that are related to the ocean to come together and find ways to engage and interact, learn from each other, and also be creative around finding solutions to the problems that we all have that may be different. And maybe that in the maritime sector, there are already some ideas and that we could take into marine science or into fashion and vice versa. So I think having that kind of this type of conversations like we're having today, it's a great opportunity. I'm really grateful and excited because this is like the start of something new.
Yes, thanks, Jessica, again for sharing your thoughts here. Again, I think you both have done a wonderful summary. For me, the thread here is this is a common ocean, and this is planet ocean, not planet Earth, because most of the planet is basically water. Again, the choice of storytelling will frame the mind. Like you said also, Jessica, I think climate change is really about the ocean's health, right? And it's not in good shape. So you're doing a wonderful job of revealing the beauty that's not seen and bringing it up in such a elegant way, right? So thank you for that. And again, thanks also, Ian, for guiding you. You're an advisory board member also of Navozyme, and you've been guiding us and sharing your insights for so many years, really. So thanks and it's a voluntary role. So it's not like, we are able to, compensate you adequately for that. But thank you so much. This has been really enjoyable. Again, for the audience, we are going to share this recording, but we are also going to share links, for the work and Crùbag. So people interested would be able to actually order, some of the work that she does. She also does, the company, also does custom work, so they can actually design something specifically for your company. And that would be interesting as well. And again, Ian, you have all our support also, to bring this to all the different aquariums, and especially I think in Barcelona is where we can try to help you. Right.
We can see you in Barcelona soon.
All of you. Again, also for the audience here, thank you so much for listening in. I see some of my friends there, and so hello to all of you. And I hope this is, at least raising a little bit of awareness about how special people like Jessica are contributing towards marine conservation. So, this has not been your typical webinar where we go deep into, the decarbonization aspects from a traditional angle, but, every drop counts, right? So this is really one of those important drops in the ocean. So with that, I'd like to again thank both of you. It's been wonderful, enjoyable for me. I'm going to pass it back to Elisenda, right, to close the session and also, make any other announcement that you may have, right? So thank you again. And
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Anjan, Jessica, and Ian for this amazing session. And of course, thank you to the audience again for connecting with us today. We hope you enjoyed this session. I for sure did. And as Anjan said, you can watch it again in our YouTube channel, or you can share it also with your network. I'm sure that they will also enjoy it a lot. We won't be announcing our next webinar just yet, so don't forget to follow us on our LinkedIn page so you are updated. I hope that you have a great week ahead, and thank you very much again for connecting with us.
Thank you.